Hey everyone, welcome back to Outpost Gray. If this is your first time here, welcome to my show. I'm your host, Jack Scott, and every week I try to provide you information in cybersecurity, innovation, and technology. And I do that through various different ways, either having guests on the show, fireside discussions, or even panels. But today I'm going to do something a little bit different. For anybody that's been following this channel and knows me personally, you know that I'm a veteran and I love to support veterans. I've actually realized that veterans are one of the top communities that try to break into cybersecurity. And what I would like to do today is share with you my transition story while also providing you tips and tricks on how to make your transition easier, but then also helping you hopefully break into cybersecurity. So it's going to be a little bit different than my regular shows, and it shouldn't be very long. I'm probably going to do about 10 or 15 minutes, so it's going to be a lot shorter than normal. But again, if you're new here, welcome to my show. It'd mean the world to me if you hit that subscribe button and you liked this video and you shared it out with others. And for everybody else that is a repeat offender here, thank you so much. You are the reason I do what I do. So you guys are the best. All right, let's get into this. All right, so military transition. This is a topic, and if you are a veteran, you can relate to the challenges of military transition. Now, we're not going to dive into what those actual challenges are. Maybe that'll be a different show. But today I'm just going to cover kind of a high level overview of what those challenges look like. And then again, some tips and tricks on helping you to get past those challenges and hopefully make your transition a little bit easier. Because I can tell you from my experience, I didn't have the easiest transition. So who am I? I'm going to cover that. Then we're going to go over some numbers, some statistics. I really think that's important to kind of understanding what is that transition struggle look like, then some tips and tricks, and provide you all at the end with some resources and some next steps. Never want to leave you hanging. So who am I? Well, if you're new here, just high level, I'm Jax. I'm a cybersecurity manager and a cybersecurity professional. I have done various different things within the space. I broke in around 2008, actually doing IT before cyber was a thing. And then my journey really it's definitely not been linear. It's been all over the place. And I have done red team, and now I'm currently doing blue team. And I'm exploring the possibilities of maybe even doing purple team. If you don't know what that is, message down below and we will let you know what all those colors mean. So I also run Outpost Gray. I'm the content creator for this YouTube channel as well as a blog. And then on my free time, I do a podcast with my dear friend, Erica McDuffie, called Two Cyber Chicks. So go and check that out. All right, so let's talk about some numbers. So this right here, overall transition challenge, I dug into this a little bit because I just kind of wanted to understand what is the overall transition challenge that we see across all of the branches. And overall, 27% of veterans have a challenge when they get out transitioning. And what I was seeing were some of the top challenges is because we're just not well equipped. The TAPS program doesn't work very well. And even with our resumes, once we get out, I don't know if this happened to you, but when I got out, my resume was a burning dumpster fire and I had to completely revamp it. And we'll talk about some tips on how to get a better resume when you get out. But I think that this was one of the key areas why this number is 27%. And in my opinion, that's way too high. Also, 19% of veterans that have serious injury have a very tough time transitioning out. What I noticed with this is because many times they're getting a medical disability. Maybe they didn't want to get out. Maybe they were only serving for 4. I've seen 6 years. I've seen 2 years where they were like, this is my life. This is what I'm going to do. Next thing you know, they jump out of a plane and they break their ankle and they're getting a medical discharge, or they got shot or they got injured during deployment and now they're getting medicaled out. And not only is it like you're going through your own mental challenges because of the injury, but on top of it, now you're going to have to find a new career when your plan all along was to stay in the military. And also a traumatic event. These two I felt like could be tied together, the serious injury and the traumatic event, but these could also be having even, maybe you're not physically externally injured, but what I noticed with the traumatic event could be military sexual trauma for any women out there. And this is a real thing that I've seen where women will sometimes, after an incident has occurred, they don't want to stay in the military. So what they thought was going to be there forever has now turned into, I need to find a new career, and they're having to deal with their own set of traumas while trying to transition into the civilian space. And then just across the board for post 9/11 veterans, around 15% are having struggles transitioning into the space. And I found this really interesting that, and I think this number is higher, you guys can correct me on this, but 200,000 service members are transitioning from the military yearly. I think that is also depending on what's going on. I know we had a big push during COVID and there was a mass exodus, and I think we had probably around 300,000 at that time transitioning out. So I think this number definitely fluctuates just depending on what is taking place in the world at the time. Some of the common challenges that I see, and this again, not only through my research, but personal experience, and that's where I'm coming up with some of these challenges. These are not all inclusive. I just picked the top three. So for a lot of veterans, it's lack of structure. And what I mean by that, if you've never served in the military, we are literally told what to do from morning, noon, and night. We are at PT in the morning, we shower, we are at our job, whatever that job is. Between this hour to this hour, you have a small lunch break, and then usually you're doing PT or something in the evenings, who knows what. Weekends are even rigid where you have to even put in a leave request if you want to go. I think it's outside of 200 or 250 miles. So everything is very structured. And when you leave that structure and that's all you've known for, say, 20 plus years, it can be really hard to be like, nobody's telling me what to do. What time do I have to wake up? Like, that's why I think a lot of times when like male veterans get out, they just let their beards and their hair, they start growing their hair and beard very long because now they don't have to keep their hair short and at a regulation, and their beards always shaved. You don't see that with women because we obviously don't grow beards, but I think we have similar effects in certain areas. So then the other thing is the community. The military is big on community. You will literally eat, sleep, and do everything with that individual. Some of the best memories and worst memories I've had is with my veterans. And that's why when veterans get together, we automatically have this bond, because I can promise you, we might not have gone to combat together or deployed together, but we can reminisce on similar experiences within the space. So having that community, it's different when you come into the civilian world, especially when you're in a very civilian dominated industry. And what I mean by that is if you don't go into the governance space or you don't go into contracting and you go into corporate America, kind of where I work predominantly with civilians. I don't work with a lot of veterans. And so reestablishing yourself within a community is very important. And I would encourage trying to do that like as quickly as possible. And then the other thing, and we're talking about it right now, is joining that workforce. And I saw one of the biggest challenges was communicating our transferable skills. Like, how do you communicate that you are an artillery officer effectively within your resume to be able to get like a program manager job within the civilian sector? And then on top of it, how do you tell that story during an interview to communicate those transferable skills? Because we're not taught that when we go through TAPS, or our out processing brief doesn't really go through how to really communicate those transferable skills. So what I want to do now is I want to provide you all with some tips and tricks to hopefully help you if you're struggling right now, going through a transition point in your life. Maybe you're not in the military. Maybe you are just going through a transition of some sort, changing a career, maybe going from being a full-time mom to starting a new job. I think all of those could be relevant in this situation. So I think the first thing is make sure that you have the right support group. So find and join a community. For me, this talk right now is just going to be very cybersecurity specific. So I recommended finding a veteran security group, or the other one I have listed under here is Rally Point, and really just start connecting with other civilian veterans so you can kind of talk through and learn from and have mentors from those who have gone through and walked the walk like myself, that hopefully can help guide you and give you some insights to maybe not make the same mistakes we made and make it hopefully a little bit easier path for you. The next thing is routine. Going back to not having that structure, I think it's really important to figure out what that routine is going to look like really quickly on. I understand wanting to take like 2 weeks to not do anything, or heck, 2 months to not do anything. You've just served for 25 years. Don't do anything, but make a commitment that as soon as that time period of your siesta is done, you establish a routine, whatever that is. If that routine is getting up at 5:30 in the morning and going work out, or if you're like me and I'm not a huge morning workout person, but I still work out every day, but it's at lunch usually, or it might be like late afternoon, late morning. Make that your routine. But I still get up at a certain time every day. I think that's very important because you need to start your day strong. So figure out what that routine looks like right away. And if you have, again, support, if that's a family member or other veterans in the community, tell them what your new routine is. Have them help you be held accountable. And then fitness. Bring this up because I've seen a lot of veterans, as soon as they get out, they're like, I'm going to be as lazy as possible, because for so many years they were told and forced to do PT. And I can contest to this, that the Army likes to take, the military in general likes to take the fun out of anything. If you like camping, the Army's going to find a way to make it suck so bad that you never want to camp again. And it is the same with anything else, including fitness. So find a new love for fitness. Go, and maybe it's just walking. Maybe it's joining a tennis group, or what is that one group? It's kind of like tennis, but it's like the shorter, like court. What is it called? You guys message down below. I can't remember what it's called. Pickleball. Try pickleball. Try something. Stay active. It doesn't have to mean you're in a gym or on a field or doing whatever, but just keep that activity, because that's really important for your mental health and keeping you going. Otherwise, you could spiral into a depression because you're so used to being physical, and then you go into a sedentary life. That's typically what will happen to your body very quickly. And then my suggestion for another tip for success, if you're still at a time where maybe you're not fully done serving, but you're really tired of active duty and having that thumb on you all the time, putting in those weekend leave passes to go past 200 plus miles, try the Army Reserve. And I'm speaking from experience here. I've had an amazing experience. I've done active duty, I've done National Guard, and I'm in the Army Reserve. And I can tell you, Army Reserve has so far been by far the best experience. And the reason why is it is giving me better work-life balance. So if that is something that you want to do, message me. I can talk to you on how to do it. But what I love about it is you can still maintain some of that structure, but not in a full-time capacity. Receive your like health benefits, your education benefits, but then you can still decide what your next move is. And you can do the transition for, say, a couple of years if you wanted to. It doesn't have to be a full commitment. And here are some tips for joining the workforce, because these I've seen as some of the top challenges for veterans trying to break in. And I had talked about this earlier, but I think it's very key, because when I got out, I thought my resume was just great. And then I realized it was not great. And I had to do an entire facelift. So get a resume review done. The recommendation I have here, but it's not all inclusive, I would say reach out to somebody on LinkedIn, or reach out to somebody in your network, maybe on Rally Point or another veterans platform, and ask them if they're in cybersecurity. Ask them to do a review of your resume. I have a couple of resume reviews on my YouTube channel, so you can go there. They also include a template, and I had a couple of veterans on the panel talking about these resumes. So go and check that out. I think that's a great first start. Also message me if you have questions, and I can send you a template on this. Next is interview prep. I think one of the things that is very challenging is when you're in the military, you don't interview for jobs. Like, I don't know how many times when veterans get out, they go, oh my God, I can't even remember the last time I interviewed, if I've ever interviewed, because maybe they joined at 18 and they served 20 plus years. How are you going to naturally magically know how to conduct an interview? Because it's a unique environment. So I would encourage you, again, work with mentors, work with individuals that you consider successful, that are in your particular work field that you want to get into, and have them do soft interviews with you, or research interview questions, and then work with your family members or your friends and have them ask you those questions and work through answering them. I think one of the key questions that you need to really refine because it's your elevator speech is, tell me a little bit about you. That is going to be almost without fail a question that you're going to receive in an interview. And you need to be able to articulate that in a way because at that point you are on stage to sell yourself. And you don't want to monologue, but you don't want to talk too little. So you need to find that sweet spot. So if you take anything away on interview prep right now, work on tell me a little bit about yourself and practice that. That is your elevator speech. All right. So, for resources, I don't want to leave you high and dry. So, I always like to conclude these with resources so you have those next steps. So, what we have here are some of my favorite resources that I have personally used before. VetSec, I am close friends with chairman of the board over on VetSec. I am a huge advocate and supporter of this community. They have a conference every year called the VetSec Con. It's free, it's virtual, and it is so much fun. It's not just veterans, there are civilians in there as well, and you can network. They also have, I think it's a Slack channel still. You can get to it on this URL, veteransec.org. Just go in there. I think you have to submit like a DD-214 or you do your like ID check and then you're in the community. In there, they have resume reviews, they have interview practicing, they have mentorship. I mean, I can't say enough about VetSec. Go check them out. The next one here, if you haven't heard about Rally Point, you need to go check them out. This is a great veteran-owned company that supports and provides services to veterans by offering job placement in like mentorship to help you make that transition much smoother. And what's great about Rally Point is you can set up a profile. It's kind of like a social media profile. You are vetted, you receive like a little star thing saying you are like a verified veteran, and then you can start, it's a safe space to share like who you are. And then you also can let people know, hey, I'm looking for work out here. So really love Rally Point. And then Feds Hire Vets. This is connecting vets to federal government careers. So if you're wanting to stay in the federal space and you're not wanting to go into corporate America, which I totally understand, great resource to connect with and get involved with. And then again, the Army Reserve, another great option if you're looking for something to stay part-time, you want to stay connected, you want to have like, it's basically, in my opinion, the Army Reserve is a great way instead of just like leaving cold turkey, you have a little bit of a framework and a baseline and some structure as you're transitioning out. So can't say enough about the Army Reserve for that. All right, guys, that concludes my brief. Again, if this is your first time here, thank you again. I am Jack Scott. If you have any questions on this brief, you can message below. I promise I will get back to you. Otherwise, you can message me on iamjax.me, or if you know me on LinkedIn, it's pretty easy to find me. It's just Jax S. Message me there. Give me some time. Sometimes it takes me a little bit to return messages, but I promise you, I will do my best to get back to you. Thank you again, and I'll see you guys next week.